It's Tipu Daniel's first flight on Virgin Blue, but at the end of the first leg, they've been grounded in Sydney for an hour by a broken starter motor.
We just downgrade the...
But they soon get the all clear to take off for Melbourne. And Anne confirms her status as the mistress of mischief.
Waiting for our guests.
Get down on it. Get down on it.
Once they're in the air, Tipu continues to push the humour envelope when two passengers can't decide what they want.
There we go. There's the... Oh, okay. Not the health bar. So you want to be a pain? That's okay. I love pains on a Sunday afternoon. Okay, here are my painful guests that I love immensely because they have gone, excuse me, they have gone from 1 tea, 1 coffee, 1 health bar, 1 muffin to 2 teas, 1 Sprite, 2 muffins, no health bar, and not even going to tip me. Thank you very much. Should be $16.50. Perfect.
The pranks are far from over yet.
I'm just handing you over to
And set Tipu a tricky task involving the unofficial Australian national anthem.
Apparently there's a song over here that you may know called Waltzing Matilda, and this song has the Jolly Swag man's name in the song. Now if you could please help me, as part of my training I've got to find out the name of the Jolly Swag man's name in the song Waltzing Matilda. I'll be doing my security walkthrough. Let me know, tell me, and I'd appreciate your assistance. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ooh, going down. Ooh. Wow.
Is there a prize for knowing his name?
Is there a prize? Yes. You get to fly to Melbourne today. For free.
You know who he is?
The name's in the song, Waltzing Matilda, but
You don't know?
I think it was,
Andy.
pardon?
Andy?
Andy, mate. Andy sang, Andy sat, Andy waited for his belly to boil. Yo, come a waltzing Matilda with me. Join in, guys. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda. You come a waltzing Matilda with me. Andy sang. So, yeah, come on, more claps. Please, please. No, please. Thank you. There we go. So, all the best to you guys. Thanks for joining in and making my first day of flying ever a memorable day.
Good on you, Tibo. We'll see you on your
Okay.
100th, mate.
All right, yeah,
Thanks,
my
matey.
100th. That'd be great.
See you, mate.
Cheers.
Come on,
See you,
buddy.
Pete. Thanks for your help.
Mate.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Good laugh.
Great for his first day.
Give me 5. All right.
Oh, I have to do that too.
All righty. Woohoo.
Oh, sorry.
Bring it on.
You
No,
did
no,
a
you're...
great job.
Thank you.
The next day, Bernie's finally feeling well enough to leave his hotel room. He and the rest of the Melbourne team head off to Luna Park for some R&R. And Bernie reckons he's got the right recipe for success at Luna Park.
Have some warm beers, a couple of milkshakes, and hot pies, and then we'll jump on a roller coaster.
Oh, okay, that's a good idea. Mix well. Yeah.
Although once they clap eyes on the big rides, the fear kicks in.
Oh, a guy just walked past before and he said that something was broken. It's not really a good thing to be doing as we're getting onto a rickety roller coaster. And there's going to be a bit of turbulence today, ladies and gentlemen, so please stow your baggage safely.
Fortunately, no one loses their baggage or their lunch.
If you'd like to join us, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, at $3 a race, winner gets a prize.
Claire's keen to win a soft toy for her daughter.
Yeah, try win a toy for Finley for sure.
Girls at $3
But Bernie's
a race.
also got his eye on this opportunity for parental brownie points.
Lots of prizes for everybody.
Yeah.
So come on over and join us at Roller Derby and have an awesome day at Luna Park.
Bernie's going to have a happy daughter back home.
Ladies and gentlemen,
For Amelia. Nice treat for Amelia.
That's cool. Come on over and join us in Muldoon.
It's time for the trainees to return home on Bonnie Blue, a week before the launch. Captain Bob Marnes on the flight deck, along with new Pacific Blue pilot Chris Thorenson. 6 of the trainees will act as flight crew, and the others will relax and be waited on.
Right, on the way.
So I don't really know what we're doing when we get to international.
I know all that's going to happen is that customs are going to come on board and say, now, everybody's got passports and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Nobody's carrying anything. No, we're through. So we're on the GD. Yeah. Oh, shit. Well, they shouldn't have to. They're on the GD. Have you got a GD here? Well, with the paperwork that comes down from ops, they should be on the GD.
The plane is parked at the domestic terminal, yet Bob was under the impression they would not have to clear Australian customs first.
But we won't go anywhere until we sort it out. I'm not going to leave here until we know.
Is that right, the change store?
Yeah, and I said, well, for Christ's sake, are they on the GD? Because otherwise it'll come to consequence. Yeah. So they're running around now. That's bags on the way down.
Yeah.
Aragog will do your customs handling at the international.
Yep. So they're going to do it down there on gate 76.
So Aussie rules apply, and Bob taxis Bonnie Blue to the international terminal, where the crew disembarks and goes through customs before boarding again.
We're such a friendly bunch. We hug on the way in. Yes, we do. Hug on the way.
The Brisbaneites are reunited with their fellow trainees from Melbourne.
Welcome on board.
They're finally on their way back home, older, wiser and slightly exhausted. They're all a bit apprehensive about the impending airline launch.
I just know there's so much work ahead of us at the moment. There's so much to do when we get back, so it's going to be full on, and I just need a break. I need to sleep or something. Okay guys, you can all disembark, woohoo!
Hello, my Shanson. Hello, my Shanson.
The next day, Tony Marks is welcoming the new ground crew. Relieved now he's heard that the AOC process is on track and that the second new plane will arrive on time. He's also been amused by some unusual mail.
But I mean, we got this postcard this morning, which took me a little bit by surprise. Would you please send me one of your new Pacific Blue Air sickness bags to add to my collection of about 2,000 different sick bags? And this is from a chap in Christchurch who obviously collects them.
Next week, the trainees hit the streets. And last-minute hitches threaten to delay the launch.
So we're now in the hands of the CAA to do that?
We accept the 90 minutes or nothing, which means we won't fly.
It's been 15 weeks since Sir Richard Branson breezed into Christchurch and announced he was setting up a new trans-Tasman airline called Pacific Blue. And it's 15 weeks since 31 cabin crew trainees got the job offer of a lifetime. Since then, they've survived a month in Aussie on Virgin Blue. Now there's less than a week to go, and the company's planes and its people are being pushed to the max. While Pacific Blue is presenting a polished, confident face to the public, the airline still has to prove to the Australian and New Zealand authorities that they've got the right stuff before they'll be cleared to take off. Within the next 4 days, they need to get air operator certificates from both governments and receive an official clearance called ETOPS to operate their twin-engine jets for the 2,000k flight across the Tasman. And Captain Bob Marnes been having sleepless nights over something else that could derail the launch.
very important charts that I've asked for from Australia, and in fact that I asked for in the middle of November, have not arrived. They're instrument approach charts, and they tell the pilots if you're in cloud and you've got to get yourself onto the ground, away from terrain, this is what you do, this is where you go, this is how long you fly for. It's just a little nerve-wracking, please. Once they're in my little hand, then I know I've got them.
You'll be happy.
Yeah.
Marketing manager Joe Wedlock's worried because tomorrow's party to celebrate receiving their air operating certificate is way over budget.
Flight crews, ground crews, we're looking at 100 odd people. It's just talking thousands of dollars again. So what we're going to do is bring it back to this core group up here and the list that like you guys gave us with the CAA. So it's really just keeping it as a celebration for the people that have been involved in the AOC. Cool, thank you.
There's an apple tree outside.
Jessie Guranathan, originally from Wellington, has been living in luxury for the past month on the Gold Coast. Now she's back in Christchurch and looking for more humble digs with her boyfriend.
I can definitely see this is just going to be a bit of a party house piano. It's excellent, even. Like Gaspar say.
Well, it's the best house I've seen today.
Over at the gym, flight attendant Beau Fielding is pumping iron to make sure he's carrying no excess baggage on Thursday's inaugural flight.
I used to be fat. I used to be really fat. Yeah, so and I don't want to get that way again. I was damn near 100 kilos once.
Next day, Joe Wedlock's starting a morning she fears will be filled with mild panic. Helping to ease the way is the airport marketing manager, her husband Glenn. Although it's not all smooth sailing.
Oh, there's always major hours. I mean, we make sure that anything that is confidential to me, I keep confidential to me, and that's just something that we've always had to be aware of.
These guys are the new kids on the block, and yet still proven, and we've got, you know, the established players who we've got relationships with, which we've got to be very protective of as well.
So those confidentialities, just you're aware if you don't cross the line,
Something Jo has had to keep secret from Glenn is her marketing strategy, which involves the cabin crew becoming human billboards. That's no problem when it's out on the street and among the general public.
We've had the odd person that's told us where to go. Someone told me to get a real job, and someone said they thought it was embarrassing, but we don't care.
But when it comes to Christchurch Airport, the stakes are a bit higher.
Hello guys, how are you?
Where's the free tickets?
As the team gets face to face with passengers and staff from rival airlines.
Sydney, $99.
Lovely.
We really love you. Hey, Jane.
Oh my god, you look so cool. Oh, thank you. You look so good.
Jo suspects that this in-your-face strategy could upset the airport company. And she's right. The next morning, Jo's team has been banned from doing promotions inside the airport. The person who banned them was her husband, Glenn.
They came and saw me and said, "What do you know about this?" And I went, "Nothing." Which was true.
Which is true. I worked on the theory that what he didn't know wouldn't hurt him. We knew we were probably pushing a boundary. They let us know, yes, we were probably crossing a line.
So was my bloody wife better?
Oh well.
Today, the whole airline is up to something big. The biggest day so far in the countdown. At the end of it, they'll know if there's to be a launch the day after tomorrow.
2 days to go.
It's the proving flight to Brisbane and back, which must be completed before the Civil Aviation Authority issues Pacific Blue an Airline Air Operator Certificate.
This is what's called a validation flight, and the purpose of it is to make sure that all the processes, all the procedures, all the training we've done actually works. So we've got a few passengers today. They're actually our staff, but they're going to act as passengers, and they're going to test all the procedures to make sure that on Thursday everything flows smoothly. And we're under scrutiny. We've got a CAA flight examiner on board.
Well, I'm the airline inspector in the airline group in CAA, and I'm responsible for certification of all the airlines. I check the crews, I check all their manuals, ensure they're all airworthy and ready to go. And so I'm going today on this proving flight, and I'll also go on the inaugural flight, just to check that all the processes are in place and everything is tickety-boo.
Everyone's up to speed, everyone's quite excited, but there's bound to be one or two things, but this is what the whole proving flight's about, is designing out those problems, so it's all good.
The CAA inspector also has to approve the ground staff and baggage handling procedures, which are being coordinated by airport manager Tony Burke.
Before either, so it's a wee bit different. We're getting the clearance to board. We're actually doing the boarding control, keeping the passengers the guests informed. And today just making sure our procedures were going to work properly for Thursday.
Bob's chuffed because his charts have finally arrived.
Yes. These charts contain all the information for all the places that Pacific Blue will operate to. The rules, the regulations, the instrument approach charts for all of New Zealand and all where we operate in Australia. We cannot operate without them. I've been beside myself for a few days, waiting for these darn things to come. I got hold of them yesterday. It wasn't a very comfortable sleep last night, but they will do as a pillow in an emergency. So I've got them. These are them. They're not leaving the aeroplane now.
Ex-Cathay Pacific pilot Stephen Bates will be in the hot seat today, under Bob Mahn's supervision.
I'm just doing an exterior inspection of the aircraft, just to make sure that everything is in order, there's no damage, there are no leaks, and just to make sure that it's 100% safe for our Pacific Blue passengers.
Everything looks fine on the outside. Now it's time for final technical checks before takeoff.
02,
The pilot's oxygen mask isn't working. It's got to be fixed and fast. Next, trolley dollies get ready to party.
I was going to come in Speedos, but they said that might be a little bit too tacky considering it's Canterbury.
But the plane's not going anywhere with a faulty oxygen mask.
We need those to work.
Pacific Blue needs to gain CAA approval before it goes head-to-head with the competition in 2 days' time. But this morning's crucial proving flight has been grounded at the last minute.
Just going to let the passengers know that there's a slight technical delay. One of our oxygen masks is not testing correctly, so just got the engineers down just to have a quick look at it. We need those to work.
The immediate future of an entire airline, the jobs of 200 people and millions of dollars are resting on a single oxygen mask. If the engineers can't get it working within the next hour, this proving flight will have to be postponed, and Pacific Blue won't get its air operating certificate from the CAA.
The engineers have rectified the oxygen mask problem and we're all clear to go.
Well, maybe. The ground crew is still learning how to use the air bridge.
That's your lights to yes and no out there to come in.
And so Bonnie Blue takes off for Brisbane, carrying the hopes of the company's 200 staff with it. The return trip will take 6 hours. Back at the airport, Tony Burke has still got to get the arrivals and baggage handling systems running smoothly.
Organised. Now I can go and play around with the screen and make sure I do that right. There's only one airline that's ever been using it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've got to make sure that they sign it, so it's easier for us to sign it, basically. Right. So I've just got to figure out how to get them out of here so I can get ours in.
There's just 18 hours to transform this area from Spaghetti Junction to state-of-the-art slickness.
Oh, we just got approval today to do it, otherwise we would have done it earlier.
Meanwhile, back at HQ, Tony Marks is trying to keep busy while quietly praying that the proving flight is going well. Joe Wedlock's flat out finalising all of the details for Thursday's launch, including Helen Clark's itinerary.
Yeah, no, I will do. No, it's all good at this stage. I haven't spoke to him about it at all at the moment.
Downstairs, the cabin crew are being briefed on their part in the pre-flight celebrations.
Guys just in shorts, just in beachwear, getting out there doing that. Then we'll have other crew members just walking around with drinks trays and what have you.
Then it's out on the streets again for some more in-your-face marketing. 5 hours later, the crew gather to celebrate the return of the proving flight and hopefully the CAA approval.
I was going to come in Speedos, but they said that might be a little bit too tacky considering it's Canterbury. And I'd be quite happy to stand there in Speedos and do it. I mean, you know me, don't you?
Definitely not dressed in Speedos this evening is Dawn Dart, who's wearing her uniform from her former job as a flight attendant on Virgin Atlantic.
This is what I used to wear in 1997. That was the last time I had this uniform on, and for Virgin Atlantic. Yeah, look at that. My chastity belt. And here I am working for Pacific Blue all the way in New Zealand.
Back at the airport, Pacific Blue's proving flight is due back from Brisbane in less than 20 minutes. But no one knows yet how the flight is going or if it's on time.
Bluebird 9062, this is Christchurch ground, go ahead.
We'll be at the gate at time 40, maybe even at time 35 now, 6:35.
I would say he would have just been hitting the coastline. They normally call up just about when they're on the coastline. So, and I only know that because I was just told that by flight ops today.
Tony now has to check all of the security systems to make sure the passengers and crew can flow through to the customs area unimpeded, before returning to the arrival gate to supervise the ground crew.
Clitch, you just landed now, mate. Okay.
The proving flight's on the tarmac, but things could still go wrong at this stage. Both pilot and ground crew must work in unison to ensure the air bridge meets the aircraft with a delicate nudge. Within minutes, Pacific Blue will know if it's going to be the latest player in the Trans-Tasman.
Good.
Next, a head-high tackle stops play.
We'll go and get hold of the CAA. We have penalties on fuel burn.
Our flight operations people have to see whether we can actually operate with that restriction.
And bad weather scuttles Joe's plans for Helen Clark.
Obviously, the Prime Minister won't be too comfortable doing if it's raining.
It's the day before the airline launch, and Pacific Blue's future lies in the hands of the CAA inspector, who's about to announce his verdict.
In terms of the operation, it was just very, very professional and top-notch. I'm very, very pleased. In fact, so pleased I signed them off and they can proceed to carry passengers.
Well, hey, thanks, Bob!
So, we're chuffed. We got it in 3 months.
Back at HQ, the team is preparing to party, but they're not going to let loose without the guests of honour.
No, did you manage to fly it at all? Did you get to hands on the steering wheel? Yeah. Do they call it steering wheel still? Yes, all prop.
Finally, after 3.5 months, Tony Marks has in his hands the crucial piece of paper, the Air Operator Certificate.
I mean, it's only a small piece of paper, but there's a lot of blood, sweat and tears went into getting it. So once again, thanks everybody, and if there's any sausages left, fall on them, and if there's any booze left, drink it.
The next morning, with less than 24 hours to go, Christchurch's midsummer cold snap continues to disrupt Joe's plans for Helen Clark.
The Prime Minister is coming. It shouldn't affect her too much. It'll affect more of the promo stuff that we were hoping to do outside of the terminal. What we were hoping to do is do a bit of a blessing of the aircraft. So we were hoping to sort of get out on the tarmac and shake the champagne and do that sort of thing, which obviously the Prime Minister won't be too comfortable doing if it's raining.
Solution? Plan B, courtesy of husband Glenn.
Yeah. Well, if it's weather like this, we're going to have to do the Maori farewell and the champagne thing in there anyway. So that's our wet weather contingency.
And how are the cabin crew with 1 day to go?
It's that conscious thing where you know you're on the first flight and there's going to be 180 eyes peering at you, half of them with cameras.
360.
Some of our big bosses watching it. Never-ending, but good. If anything happens, it's Chipper's fault. Because we're going to be blaming him the whole time.
But we'll be doing our
The worst thing would be if our plane didn't take off at all.
And it still might not take off. One of the biggest hurdles the airline has faced so far has been approval for ETOPS, or Extended Range Twin Engine Operations, an international system of safety standards for aircraft flying long distances over water.
ETOPS is Extended Range Twin Engine Operations, and what that means is that every single time you are more than 60 minutes from an adequate aerodrome, that is one that you can land at, you are in extended range operations. So we draw a circle where we go 60 minutes out of Christchurch, 60 minutes out of Brisbane, and in between is our extended range twin engine operations. When you don't have ETOPS, then you must be within 60 minutes of an aerodrome. So that means we're going to fly up to close to be within 1 hour of Auckland. Then we make a slight turn to make sure that we're within 1 hour of Norfolk Island. And then again, if the Brisbane weather's no good, we've got to make a slight turn to be within 1 hour of Coffs Harbour or Coolangatta, or in extreme cases, 1 hour from Noumea. So it can add quite a bit of flight time.
Pacific Blue has had approval from the New Zealand Civil Aviation Authority to operate a 120-minute ETOPS limit, and have been told the Australian authority, CASA, will follow suit. But with 1 day to go, CASA has lowered the limit to 90 minutes, increasing the flight time and sending Tony Marks and his team into a tailspin.
As of today, it looks like we're restricted to 90 minutes ETOPS, and our flight operations people have to see whether we can actually operate with that restriction.
Okay, so this is not a CAA issue?
No.
This is, it's become a CAA issue, but it isn't a CAA issue. It's a requirement that we've just learned about from Australia.
We have penalties on fuel burn, extra flight time, upsetting the schedules, and so on and so on. But it can be achieved.
Do we accept the 90 minutes or nothing? Which means we won't fly.
Yeah, well, that seems not too difficult a decision to make, doesn't it? You've got 180 people sitting on the damn airport waiting for a flight to go tomorrow morning, including the Prime Minister coming down to open the show.
But rather than roll over, Tony and his team decide to fight the Australian ruling down to the wire.
No.
Well, we'll just wait it out and go and get hold of the CAA and find out what they're going to do on our behalf. We're not going to cancel the flight. We'll go ahead anyway. We do not tell the Prime Minister not to show up, okay? She's coming, everybody's happy.
Absolutely.
And even tomorrow morning, if we're all up till 3 o'clock in the morning, we're all a box of birds, okay? Everything was cool, yeah, no problem at all.
The management team springs into action with a flurry of faxes, emails and phone calls across the Tasman.
I need both of you for a minute. Just spoken to Tony.
It's well after dark before they get a final verdict on their ETOPS limit and on whether Pacific Blue will have a slower than expected trip to Australia.
A gentleman in Canberra had to write a report. That had to go to his boss. And until he'd finished his report, his boss wasn't going to sign a certificate. The Canberra course closes at 5 o'clock their time. And so at 4:30 their time, we were getting pretty apprehensive because we still didn't have it. In fact, we finally got the approval 2 minutes from deadline. We've made it.
Next week.
All I can say is let the competition rip, because that's what New Zealand aviation policy is about.
Pacific Blue takes off in a shower of champagne. But not everyone's happy with the no-frills service.
It might only be a $99 flight, but they offer you can buy food, and that's what we're expecting.
For 3.5 months, fledgling Trans-Tasman airline Pacific Blue has been counting down to its launch date. Now the cabin crew are trained, the pilots are ready, the plane is waiting, the bookings are running hot. Today's the day they take off, and everyone's got their happy face on.
I'm quietly confident about everything. We've got a good crew. I think we're onto it.
But it's not going to be as easy as that. Today's flight will be everything but routine. With 4 hours till takeoff, one Christchurch local is making sure he's at the front of the queue.
Maybe I sort of want to be the first one here to check in as a part of history. First commercial flight across the Tasman.
But someone else also wanted to be first, and he's come all the way from Australia.
Well, I flew in from Melbourne this morning, and I just turned up for all of Virgin's inaugural flights. Waiting to be number one to check in, but someone's beat me to it. Yeah, I just made these at home on the computer. They're nothing official. Oh, I've got a whole wardrobe full of red T-shirts because I give them away on every inaugural flight they do. It's a fun trip. Plus, the flight attendants are nice.
Most of the other passengers have less complicated reasons for being here.
Because it was cheap. Yeah.
They're having a charity auction mid-flight of package holidays and the like, and have decided to give the proceeds to Christchurch City Mission. So they invited me along to, in a sense, take the purses away on flight.
This first flight is also going to be packed with camera crews, local business leaders and celebrities, along with punters who have scored free seats in radio station promos. Out back, the crew are feeling first day nerves, especially the flight attendants.
I have no fear. No, I'm fine.
I'm the nervous one that keeps laughing.
It's alright, Jess, we're all nervous. Yeah, we can't eat because we're so nervous. It's like,
calm down.
All I think there'll be a little bit of pressure from because everyone will be watching us. But I think once we get on board and we know what we're doing, everyone will just be cool. You watch, mark my words.
A few bumps may be forecast, but I think we're going to slide over the top of them, and good weather for arrival in Brisbane.
So we've just spent about a half an hour looking at the weather, looking at the flight plan. Brisbane weather's fine. Everything's great. We're just itching to get to the aeroplane so that we can have an on-time departure.
As the crew heads off to board their aircraft, the flight attendants who aren't taking off today get ready to boogie at the launch party.
They have asked me to take my t-shirt off, but the chances of that happening are very remote.
All eyes this morning are watching out for head girl Helen Clark. The nominal head of the government-owned rival airline is guest of honour.
The competition will be very vigorous. The Tasman is known for being a super competitive aviation market, and all I can say is let the competition rip.
And let the champagne pop. Like a good politician, Helen suggests saving the rest till later. Meanwhile, with 10 minutes till boarding, Tara and Tipu and the rest of the team are putting on a final sprint.
Excellent. Thank you.
So you've only got 3 muffins, you've got 3 sandwiches. Sweet.
Now these are all identical to Caesar salads. That's like a salad kit.
They look good.
They make up, they just put the meat in the salad.
How you going down the back there? You all sweet, ready for board?
Oh no, go for it.
Okay, captain's ready to go. We're ready to go. You're ready to go?
Yeah.
Job's on. Thank you very much. Well done, team.
And first to make it on board?
You have your boarding pass for us, please. Thank you very much. Mr. Tubbs, you're in 12C, which is 12 rows down on the right-hand side.
Hey, 38, so you were right at the back and you've got the window seat here.
The first flight is finally taking off, with the airline doing all they can to ensure the passengers leave happy and tell all their friends about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we've got some free champagne. Gentlemen, you look like the sort that might have a few bubbles with us.
Yeah, why not?
And so the party starts, but for the crew, it's work all the way. And Bo, who predicted a smooth ride, gets off to a wobbly start.
I didn't do that, you did that. Hey, did anyone win? Did you witness that?
But on the way, a more urgent clean-up job. A toddler has been sick.
Sorry, it's got a little sick boy.
Sorry, man, that was my fault.
It's always us, you should play.
Up front, pilots Bob and Steve are bringing the plane up to its cruising altitude of 38,000 feet.
Next position, low day, 0611, following point safer, temperature -50, wind 265 degrees, 60 knots.
Chicken sandwich. It's not that hard.
Are you okay with the OBT?
But soon the rear galley crew are starting to sweat as they struggle to cope with the new onboard transaction machine.
Are you okay with it? Okay, you want me to?
But progress is still not fast enough for one thirsty radio announcer who wants her free drink ASAP.
Yeah, it's one free drink. Yeah. These dudes are slowly making their way down. Yeah. Can you hold off? By the time they get here, so water will be great. They've finished water. Yeah. Is that cool? Oh, thank you.
That's all she's having, that's her free drink.
Hello, we've lost our coffee. Coffee's gone.
Coffee's gone. Okay, we'll be coffee.
Coffee. Coffee cups? No, there's coffee cups.
A plane without coffee, this could be serious. Next, they're dancing in the aisles. And turbulence tests the team to the limit.
Okay, lock her out. When you finish up here, I just need to take the seats, okay?
Halfway across the Tasman Sea, at the midpoint of Pacific Blue's inaugural flight, all is going well in the cockpit. Back in the cabin, frequent flyer Anthony Tubbs is having a great time. But everyone else is thirsting for coffee.
Unfortunately, today we were not loaded any coffee sachets, so then hence we can only offer tea.
But the lack of coffee is not the only problem. They're making slow progress with 2 trolleys, which in turn is slowing up the hot meal service.
How many lamps?
5 lamps. Right, now we need that to tell us where they're sitting.
It's taking a wee while because Zahara has to serve on her own because I have to enter everything in here, food and things like that they're doing, but because the gentleman bought everybody a drink, we have to enter that in separately. So that's all going on the old way of doing it. So, and plus we've got the hot meals as well, and it's all just a bit new and crazy at the moment.
At the other end of the plane, Bo and Jessie are having a similar problem with the transaction machine.
Hey, sweetie, Bo's getting a bit
worried because this service is going to take forever.
Adding to their troubles is the increasing turbulence.
If it gets too bumpy, we'll stop the service. And I'll make the PA on that. Is that okay?
Taryn? Yeah. Some more cups. More sick bags and maybe a chucks.
Sorry, the turbulence freaks everyone out, that's all, especially us. Okay, you're doing well.
We are going to suspend the service at the moment for your comfort and safety of your crew. Okay, lock her up. When you finish up here, I'm just going to take the seats, okay? For these bumps. Listen out for the PA, we'll see how we go from there.
Up front, Bob and Stephen prepare to take the plane up 3,000 feet to clear the turbulence.
Sorry about these few bumps. Another 10 minutes or so, we'll be flying in smooth air again. Thank you.
With clear air, the crew are back serving food, and the last 4 rows finally get their meals.
I was getting a bit concerned when people give you that longing stares to say, when are you getting to me?
That was the worst turbulence I've experienced.
Yes, I can't believe it. But it was a good experience. We can't be scared. We've got 140 passengers. Their lives depend on us.
With the meals over, it's time for some high-flying hijinks. First, the promotional T-shirts. Then a charity auction for the Christchurch City Mission. Up for grabs, a Queensland holiday package worth over $2,000.
We might even throw in some crew kisses if you like. $700 down the back there? Is that a $700? Fantastic. $800. That's fabulous. Does anyone want to put it up? And we are sold for $1,000.
Oh, absolutely thrilled. It's brilliant. They raised all on this flight, somewhat up of $1,400 total for the Christchurch City Mission.
And the Virgin Airlines fan offers his verdict.
It's pretty standard. Champagne, fun and games, that sort of stuff. Very nice of the Christchurch Airport manager to give us free drinks. That's something you don't see too often.
Something else you don't see often is the infamous bog roll race.
Row against row race, and you're not allowed to break it. If you break it, you've got to actually hold it so that it gets to the other end.
The bog roll race was devised by Sir Richard Branson to counter in-flight boredom. And on the winning team, today's first passenger.
Left-hand side are the winners.
Oh, it's been great. The service has been excellent and very interesting. Been on the first flight, very entertaining.
Before you leave us today, please remember to take personal belongings with you, checking both in the seat pocket and overhead lockers.
At last, they're in Brisbane, where they receive a fire truck dousing, a tradition reserved for new airline inaugural flights.
Kia ora, mate, we're here!
Awesome, we made it. Now we've got to do this on the way back. Yay! Rightio. Thanks. Bye.
Meanwhile, the crew get to clean the plane, greet the guests, and take off again, all in under an hour.
And it is very special because you are our first guest from this side of the ditch over to that side of the ditch. The safety instruction card in the seat pocket shows the brace position and contains other vital information.
The Gold Coast is soon below them. Once they've reached cruising altitude, it's time for the crew's encore performance.
This first flight from Brisbane to Christchurch, we have a free round of champagne for everyone on board.
It's going to be hopefully a little bit smoother this time around, and I'd say that now that we've had one go on the OBT, everything will go a little bit smoother with it. Smooth's good.
On this return journey, most of the meals do go out on time. But with the aisle crammed full of cabin crew and charity collectors, someone's bound to get left out. As they approach Christchurch, Mr. Tubbs is getting toey. He says he ordered a drink a couple of hours ago. And on landing at Christchurch, he can't resist giving Claire a final safety tip.
Bit of a tip for the future. Yeah. Make sure the exit rows are clear on landing.
Oh.
My bag remains by my feet.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
It was a bit bumpy on the way over, just in a period there, but we were fortunate that we were able to climb out of it. With our NG aeroplane being able to climb so high. I mean, we knew it was going to work all along, but it's just today's the day where we said, yeah, the theory is now put into practice. It works. We're happy.
The first flight, we probably could have dug it in a bit harder. Second flight, yeah, we made those important tackles. All credit to the opposition, and I think the team played really well.
It was good. It was fun. I don't know if we did it well, but it was fun and we got it done. Wow. It's been great. It's been awesome. It was a really busy day.
We're all really calm, so none of us were major stresses. So
you were sitting in the toilet. You were in the toilet. We rocked. Nice one.
It's 2 weeks and 14 Trans-Tasman flights later. Bonnie Blue's being prepared for what's now become a routine flight to Brisbane and back.
It's not a bad flight time today, actually. We've got 3 hours and 20 minutes across the Brisbane, which is quite quick. The headwinds aren't as strong as they normally are.
But today there's some tension in the crew room. Most of the flight attendants are already veterans of the route, but Carly's been off sick, and this is her first flight. In her panic to get here, she's forgotten her passport. Her colleague Taryn has agreed to dash home and retrieve it. If she doesn't make it, Zahara will have to step in.
I'm Taryn. She's going to have it here in 15 minutes. Fingers crossed.
I'm just about at your house.
Okay.
Next will Carly's passport arrive in time.
I'll be about 20 minutes on the way back.
And unhappy punters go hungry.
Crackers. That was it. That's all that was left.
Who cares? It doesn't matter. I'll make tea.
Pacific Blue's afternoon flight to Brisbane is scheduled to take off in 20 minutes, but flight attendant Carly has left her passport at home. So colleague Taryn is dashing to pick it up.
Hello? Where are you?
I'm nearly at your house.
Oh, you're close. Okay.
So let's go. Bye.
I've been having like a really stink week. Probably break out in hives again like I did on Blooming Saturday. I didn't pack my stuff properly and I had so much time to get ready as well.
I'm on my way back. Give me 10 minutes and I'll be outside the terminal.
We've got just one spare on the frontier.
One.
What lights are you at? The main roundabout, so at John's Road. Okay, swing straight by. Okay, bye. Go back, get on reserve. Wait with me. You go through and you come in a minute. Your flight number today is DJ 007. So we can depart as soon as possible. Please take your assigned seat.
I owe you big time.
You do.
Thank you.
Thanks, peace.
Relax, have a good flight. We'll talk about this later. Okay, no worries. See you, Carly.
Okay.
If you are sitting by an emergency exit, all of your hand baggage needs to be securely stowed in the overhead locker, and the crew will be happy to assist you.
And so they take off with a relieved Carly on board, and also Matt, who's having his first flight for a week.
It's so good to be back in the air, and the feedback that we've had from the guests is just amazing. It's so good to get that positive feedback from them as well as from our managers as well, which is good.
But it seems not everyone's been happy with the meal service.
We were running out of a bit of food to start with. We weren't sure what was going to be selling like hotcakes, which wasn't, so we found we were running out of specific items. So now we know to load more of this and less of that. So it's just all stuff we learned along the way.
As a cabin supervisor, I feel I've still got a lot to learn in regards to the procedures as in the paperwork side of things. Hopefully that'll never get dry and stale, because that's really when I'm going to find something else to do.
We've got Sam the Magician Hodgson. He's a resident magician, which he's a bit of a dark horse, old Sammy. We didn't really realise he possessed those skills till...
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want a huge applause for every trick I do. What's wrong with these colours, ladies and gentlemen? Exactly. So we've got to get rid of them. So someone could give me a bit of a magic word. Kiwi, that's a good one. I like it. Okay, so on the count of 3, we're going to say kiwi. Okay? So 1, 2, 3.
Kiwi!
And here we go. Pacific Blue colours.
The rest of the flight is as smooth as they could hope for, although there's still the odd hiccup. Carly knows her bosses are keeping an eye on her, so she's working hard to make up for her earlier mistake. And by the time they've landed in Brisbane, she's recovered her sense of humour.
A very glamorous path. It's like Cinderella.
My favourite time. Turn around and clean up.
We have about 15 minutes to turn around, which is taking all the rubbish off and putting all the equipment back into the seat pockets and being reboard, and then we're up in the air in 45 minutes total turnaround, so pretty speedy.
But they've got another big hurdle to overcome yet. Among the passengers for the flight back is their boss, Tony Marks, who's following up on previous complaints about the hot food service. Once again, Sam turns on his tricks.
Click on that, and I'll hold the next one. And we have this one.
But the one trick they can't seem to pull out of the hat is a hot meal for everyone on board.
Well, it's been very slow. It's 10 to 10, so just got a drink in the last 5-10 minutes.
Crackers. That was it. That's all that was left.
Who cares? It doesn't matter. I'll make tea.
It might only be a $99 flight, but they offer you to buy food, and that's what we're expecting.
It's a no-frills fight. Otherwise you're going to have to pay more for it. So I'm happy with whatever comes up.
We're primarily employed for safety. Tea and coffee is just a perk.
No, I can't. No complaints. Very happy.
The people are friendly and the service is great. I didn't get what I wanted in the food, but what I did get in place of it was very tasty.
So the boss decides to check out the galley for himself.
I was just trying to get a handle on how many meals we think we might have missed out on and how many we carried. Just going up to see Sarah right now just to try and establish that. Because there have been 1 or 2 occasions where we've said we've run out, but then we've actually offloaded stuff.
It's just this time of night, people are so hungry. They're just going for gold.
No, they are.
Yeah.
Well, they're used to it. I mean, on a traditional airline, people are being said, food. Yeah.
Today's trip has given Tony Marks plenty to sort out over the next few days.
I'm so tired. I want to go to bed.
For the crew, it's another successful flight under the belt, especially for Carly.
Love from Sky, Widdermoo, Nana and Granddad Kiss. And Pacific Blue was a great crew.
Next week, 150 school kids on board and a bird hits an engine on takeoff. And a computer crash causes check-in chaos.
Well, we've got 160 odd people here that are waiting to check in.
Over the last 7 weeks, we've followed Pacific Blue through its frantic startup period and its first flight. Tonight, in this final episode, the airline is undergoing interesting and turbulent times. The flights have been full and the staff seem happy in their work, although they tend to grab any time off that they can.
As you do. How long are you away from home?
The airline has had complaints about the hot meal service, although they're confident the worst is behind them.
They put on extra hot meals, they put on extra sandwiches and so forth, so yeah, we're just working on the loads there. We've certainly got enough.
Pacific Blue is also facing a crucial shortage of new pilots, who must be certified in time to fly expanded routes into Wellington, Sydney and Melbourne. To service these new routes, the airline has spent $90 million on a new 737-800, which slips in late one Sunday night straight from the Boeing factory in Seattle. Captain Bob Mann can't wait to give it the once-over.
Just look at this, will you? Beautiful. Just lovely. I think I'll fly this myself and nobody else will be allowed to get near it. Let's have a look at the engine. Ready to give us 26,000 pounds of thrust any time we like.
Here's the heart of the mission, just right here. Hi, Missy. Close the doors, let's go.
In fact, Bob will not be the first person to fly the new plane. The next morning, pilot Chris Thorenson prepares to fly it to Wellington on Pacific Blue's first unofficial flight into the capital city.
It's really quite exciting. We're taking a whole lot of school kiddies up with us to Wellington for the day, and I get to go to Te Papa and up to the Beehive and everything, which should be so cool. For some of them, it's their first time ever on a plane, so that's really, really cool being out of that excitement for them.
The 150 school kids have won seats on the trip by painting artwork for a radio station competition.
Is there anyone that needs to go to the toilet? It's okay. Are you sure? Positive?
Many have never flown before, so the excitement is building as they prepare for takeoff.
I'm not scared or anything.
Hi everybody, we're just going to introduce, I'm sure they need no introduction, Peter, Mac and Hillary from Light FM for you. Hi guys!
G'day guys, is this wicked or what?
We're here for you today, and Peter and I promise we'll behave. You look after your teachers and your parents, and we'll all come back safely. I can't wait for it.
10 minutes later, they're clear to take off, but the day's about to turn out a bit more exciting than anyone thought. Halfway down the runway, something strikes one of the engines. The pilots are already beyond the point of no return and have to continue, before deciding whether to circle around and land again. The object was actually a seabird called a clubber that's been sucked into the engine and spat out the back. Up front, pilot Chris Thorenson immediately knows what's happened. A bird strike must be taken seriously, as it could potentially shut an engine down completely. Back inside the plane, no one's the wiser, but they do notice a distinctive smell.
Can you smell something funny?
Is there any smoke or anything that you can see?
Matt's call soon confirms the source of the fried chicken odour.
It's apparently a bird strike, and the captain's aware of it. He's going to let us know, and apparently it's continuing as normal, and that it's fine to operate. Just if we do find out anything else, if we notice any other smells, just to ring through anything.
A word from the crew there that we kind of fried a bird on takeoff. Yeah. So yeah, nothing wrong. Plane's fine. Just made it a bit smelly inside here. I think a few people noticed the Kentucky Fried Chicken aroma.
The crew decide there's no need to alarm the passengers and continue with the fun and games. The engine is performing perfectly, and the pilots continue as normal, or as normal as you can get flying into Wellington. While the school party heads off for its Wellington tour, an engineer is on hand to inspect the engine.
It has to be a bore scope. It'll be a scope. It's gone down the core.
Sure has.
Plenty of smell, it must be.
I don't know if it has to have a bore scope before the next flight though.
The engineer shows Chris the remains of the clubbers.
We've got a little feather here and a little bit of blood on the inside of one of those blades that indicates that at least part of the bird, if not a whole bird, has gone through the hot section. We've got a lot more around the outside, which is the fan, which is the cold air that goes around the outside of the engine, and that's not so serious because that just flows straight out the back, doesn't go through the engine.
Meanwhile, the kids and their minders have done Te Papa and are now invading Parliament, where news of the bird strike has broken.
We told the children it was the smell of new leather. Seeds they seemed to bite, so we were quiet about that.
Yeah.
Well, what did you tell your kids?
I was thinking more along the lines of burning rubber of the tyres.
The tyres
It's
they
a new
knew.
plane.
At Wellington Airport, a verdict has been reached on whether they'll be flying back to Christchurch today.
The aircraft is cleared to fly but needs to be boroscoped within 25 hours.
Once the children are back on the plane and in the air, the full story emerges about the fried clubber.
That was the bird?
Yeah, and the engine. Poor bird.
Back home, all of the airline staff are relieved that everything but the bird has finished the day intact.
As I suspected, it wasn't a major deal, and the damage wasn't significant, if there's any damage at all, which I suspect there isn't, so they'll check it out tonight with the boroscope and it'll be operations as normal.
The next day, the engine has passed its inspection,
See about another 20 seconds.
and the airport fire service is out dealing to the birds. The feathered pests are an ongoing problem at Christchurch Airport and have sparked off some serious incidents in recent years.
From an aircraft operations point of view, unfortunately birds present a risk. There was an almost very serious incident here in Christchurch, and this was a case where a taking off Boeing 747 ingested birds and had to shut down 2 engines. Now, due to the skill of the pilot and good procedures, there was no threat to life, but that could have been a very, very serious incident.
And so Pacific Blue's new aircraft has survived its close encounter with no damage. Next, a computer crash causes check-in chaos.
Well, we've got 160 odd people here that are waiting to check in.
And what's the answer to the hot food dilemma?
We were running into all sorts of logistical problems with it. At the end of the day, we made a decision.
An early start for Pacific Blue's ground crew this morning and a milestone for the company. This is the first morning both aircraft are in operation. One's going to Melbourne, the other is on its inaugural flight to Sydney and then back to Wellington. And the check-in staff are expecting a stressful morning.
What have we got? 278 this morning. It will get checked in 2 hours. And you'll find most people won't turn up till about 4:45.
Half an hour later, the crowd is swelling and the pressure is rising when Murphy's Law kicks in. The computer and baggage handling systems crash and everything slows down to a snail's pace.
Sydney and then
Any of you to Melbourne? Melbourne? Yeah.
The Melbourne flight eventually takes off 10 minutes late, but there's still another plane to go and the computer system is still down.
No, the Sydney one's all right to go now. Okay. Thanks, mate. Bye. Thank you for being so patient and waiting.
It's a bit hectic. We've been here for about 25-30 minutes. Well, we'd have expected a better organised check-in.
Maybe a separate queue for the two, the two things. With the Melbourne and the Sydney, people are all getting mixed up and nobody knows where they are.
But soon the queues are longer than ever. And Tony Burke's worried the Sydney flight is going to be well delayed. Out back, the cabin crew are waiting, along with the pilots who are calculating how they can make up the lost time. And the queues are growing even bigger, as the computer system stubbornly refuses to play the game.
Be another quarter of an hour before we can start checking into Sydney. We've just got to get the flight. It hasn't been quite loaded correctly, so they're just working on it now. Well, we've got 160 odd people here that are waiting to check in, and we can't give them a time or anything because nobody's called us back to tell us what's going to be happening.
Just the way it is.
Mistakes we have it all the time.
You're used to it. The line is far too long and we're taking too long to check people in because of the system didn't come up in time.
I look happy.
but I'm not happy. I'd like this line to be half the size it is at the moment, and it should be. I mean, the flight's due out in 15 minutes.
Half an hour later, most of the passengers have boarded, and Tony Burke finally gets a breather.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed, but overall, none of the passengers got grumpy. We kept them up to date with what was going on, so that's about all we can do.
The Sydney flight eventually takes off half an hour late, which means the remainder of the day's planned festivities in Sydney and Wellington will be running late. Thanks to a tailwind, however, and some fast flying from Stephen Bates, they're soon back on track.
We're presently on time. Our flight is going according to flight plan, and we do anticipate landing on schedule.
But when they reach Sydney, there's an air traffic control backlog, and the plane is put into a holding pattern for 30 minutes. Now they're behind time again, so Joe Wedlock's got to cut a planned 2-hour ceremony in half.
This flight's going to be delayed going back on it. We were scheduled to depart at 9:05.
While the dignitaries get to cut the cake and eat it too, the flight attendants are all too busy to eat.
Got our guests back on and try not to delay us any further. But with that air traffic control delay a wee bit earlier on, it was sort of pushed for time now. Normally we might get a chance to sit down and eat our meal, but not today. So do that when we get to Wellington tonight.
And the hungry crew get down to the never-ending challenge of serving 180 people in a single-aisle aircraft. One thing has made their job much easier, the management's decision on hot meals.
We were finding that anywhere upwards of 60, 70, 80% when they were crossing the Tasman on us wanted that hot meal, and we literally just didn't have the room to stock it. We didn't have the ability to run that service out in time to actually get up, get out and get back down again. So we made a decision to take the hot meals off, to load on a lot more substantial food that we can store on board, such as club sandwiches, muffins, cheese and crackers, those sorts of things. I think most people would prefer to have a cold, substantial sandwich and get it within an hour of being on board than finally getting a hot meal that takes them 3 hours to get.
An hour later, they're approaching Wellington Airport, infamous for its unpredictable crosswinds. Today there's a fire truck shower for the plane and another ceremony for the officials. But for the crew, it's finally time for cake.
This is all we've been in about 9 hours.
So I'm just going to stop my face here.
Next, does Captain Bob's new pilot pass his final test?
The fire was not out, and we say, look, we're not going to make this.
And embarrassed.
And testing times for the cabin crew.
Embarrassing.
Captain Bob Mahn's in charge of pilot training, a job that's causing him some stress. Without enough pilots, the airline won't be able to keep up its expansion plans.
Yeah, well, the last few days have been quite a bit of pressure. We need to get our pilots checked to line. Some of the pilots are not experienced on our ETOPS Trans-Tasman operation, so they've been flying with training captains going backwards and forwards. So it's my job for the last few days to now check them out, what we call their final line check, to make sure that they are competent to fly in the Pacific Blue operation as line captains and line first officers.
Today he's taking Australian pilot Mark Brewer to Brisbane and back. Mark's an experienced pilot, but he's flown freight planes until now.
Can I go no team-wise? Weather? Then we go to look at the flight plan. Sure.
Today he's got to prove to Bob that he can fly a plane full of people across the Tasman.
We want to make sure is that Mark can operate the aeroplane in a safe, efficient manner, and that he's familiar with the Pacific Blue routes and familiar with the ETOPS operation, the extended range operation of the aeroplane.
That's my line check.
Yeah.
And all being well, I'll be on the roster tomorrow.
Hey, this is Zahara and Jessie.
G'day. How are you, ladies? Glad you could make it. Yeah.
We're not late, are we?
No. In fact, if anything, you've still got a couple of minutes up your sleeve.
tell me what you're looking for,
okay.
eh? Yeah.
First we want to make sure all the antennas and aerials are on without any damage. Door closed and flushed. There's also one on the front. Nothing's impacted the front. It's a bit hard to see the individual blades today. So only one probe on these, it's got to be undamaged, and there's no marks or damage on the acoustic liner. These are also worth having a bit of a look at to make sure there's nothing leaking from within.
Yeah, we just had a lightning strike too. Sometimes on the end you'll get a little black pinhole. You know what this is for? Sorry? Should you have the bloody bad luck to have
shutting it down and having the valve in the wrong spot?
No, the starter, having the manual start. So a big long screwdriver, just turn it.
Crank it.
Yeah. I wouldn't like to. I wouldn't volunteer for that job.
With that inspection over, Sahara seeks Bob's advice on another technical matter.
We're refueling. Is it okay to flush the toilet?
Yes, why?
Thank you. Because as supervisor, I have a that I can't flush the toilet.
I don't know. I just said I can't see why not. Then I thought, shit, is it electric motor or is it bloody?
Well, it's
pressurised. It's electric motor, but it's pressurised.
Because there's a circuit breaker down there for it.
I couldn't see why not, though, could you?
All I know is they say, please don't empty the sink while there's an engineer walking underneath because it goes down his neck.
Yeah.
I know that one.
That's bad karma, I think that's called, isn't it?
Yeah.
Before start checklist, flight deck preparation.
Complete.
Light test.
Checked.
Oxygen and interphone.
Checked.
Checked. Your damper
is on.
Navigation, transfer and display switches.
Normal and auto.
Fuel.
Got 13,170 on board, 6 pumps on.
That's within 3%. We're ready to go, so if all our passengers are here a wee bit early, we can go a little bit early.
V1 rotate. Positive rate.
You're up.
Job at the top.
Thank you.
Happy with that?
Yep.
Okay, get that for you.
And 90 minutes later, they're halfway across the Tasman, within radio range of Brisbane.
Brisbane Bluebird 7 was over Runod at 0445. Flight level 380. Next position, Lockett 0556. Following point, Woday. Temperatures -50. Wind 275 degrees, 65 knots.
While the passengers and flight attendants carry on as usual in the cabin, Bob's about to test Mark on how he would handle a mid-Tasman fuel shortage.
Yeah, so how much gas would you say?
Hour and a half.
Round it up.
Yeah, all right. At 3,800 an hour, an hour and a half. Yeah, round it up, we need 6. Yeah, that's just to get there.
That's just to get there. That's nothing. So what would happen if you saw that, okay, I can't make it now?
Well, looks like you can't make it. Well, you would have to...
I don't have enough gas.
Nah, all right. You'd have to seriously consider lifting that gear again.
So it's even not much good going to Norfolk?
No.
So if the flyer was not out and we say, look, we're not going to make this, you'd probably have to consider Lord Howe.
And that can be tight because it has the old Wellington problem across of downwind both ends.
But in reality, there's plenty of fuel, and half an hour later, they're approaching the Australian coast.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the captain again. In another couple of minutes, we'll be commencing our descent into Brisbane.
Landing gear.
Down 3 green.
Mr. Approach altitude.
100. 50. 30. 20. 10.
Speed brakes up, check.
So now they're at the halfway mark, and Mark's halfway to passing his line test.
Bye now.
See ya. Bye. See ya. Bye.
Once the plane's boarded again, there's just time for the all-important paperwork before heading back to Christchurch. First, there's the stressful job of taxiing through a crowded airport without bumping into anything. It's late afternoon when they take off, so during the flight back, Mark will have to demonstrate his abilities to fly in the dark. And back in the cabin, flight attendants Zahara and Jessie are also facing the prospect of an upcoming test.
What normally happens is it's after a year that we get line checked online, and we're getting them done now.
Yeah.
So that's rather exciting.
If you do fail your line check,
you get taken offline
for
and
3
embarrassed.
days, and you need to train again. And embarrassed.
Yeah, it is. It would be really embarrassing. It's been hard, I have to say, though, with the startup, and everything's new and everyone's learning things, and we do make mistakes and we do have to fix those mistakes, and we're just getting better, so it is a positive thing.
In a few years' time, we'll be both supervisors. Definitely.
Right. I don't know if I want to be a supervisor.
Yes, she does.
I don't know. Not at this stage. They've definitely, I have to say, have got their work cut out for them.
Back in the cockpit, Mark's got his work cut out for him too, as he guides the plane across the Southern Alps.
Green is the terrain, so we can see visually, without being able to look outside, where all the terrain is located.
The lights of Christchurch are soon ahead, and so too is Mark's ultimate test, landing the plane in the dark.
Green light.
500. 100. 50. 30. 20. 10.
Speed brakes up.
And the question of the day, has Mark measured up to Bob's expectations?
Oh, that's all right. Looks like he's going to let me loose. Yeah. Go and do it again tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah, and the next day.
Is the guy safe and confident to go by himself? You betcha. Yeah, so congratulations again, Mark.
Thank you.
Well
Thanks,
done.
Bob.
Well done. Go and enjoy.
Now Pacific Blue is through its turbulent startup period, the company is ready to take on its rivals head to head. But only time and the customers will tell if it will survive in the cutthroat trans-Tasman market.
Mm-hmm.